Alhamdulillah wa kafa wa salatu wa salamu ala ibadihi allazina istafa. Amma ba'du fa'auzu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. Bismillahir rahmanir rahim. Wal 'asr innal insana lafi khusr illa allazina amanu wa 'amilus salihati wa tawasaw bil haqqi wa tawasaw bis sabr. Sadaqallahul azim. Rabbi shrah li sadri wa yassir li amri wahlul 'uqdatam min lisani yafqahu qawli. Allahumma rabbana alhimna rushdana wa a'izna min shururi anfusina. Allahumma arina al-haqqa haqqan warzuqna ittiba'ah wa arina al-batila batilan warzuqna ijtinabah. Allahumma rabbana nawwir qulubana bil iman washrah sudurana lil islam wa waffiqna lima tuhibbu wa tarda wa taqabbal minna fa innaka khairul mutaqabbilin. Allahumma ij'alna min ibadika allazina amanu wa 'amilus salihati wa tawasaw bil haqqi wa tawasaw bis sabr. Ameen ya rabbal alameen. By the fleeting time, verily all humans are doomed except those who had the real faith and did good deeds and exhorted each other to whatever is true and exhorted each other for patience and forbearance. We started our discussion on Surah Al-Asr in the last session. I was giving you 4 preliminary points. I had given 3. Number 1, it's one of the most early surahs of the Quran, one of the earliest Makki surahs of the Quran. Number 2, it is one of the smallest surahs of the Quran. But number 3 was very important. It's the most profound, most comprehensive surah of the Quran regarding the conditions and prerequisites of salvation. The most profound and most comprehensive surah of the Quran on Tawheed is Surah Al-Ikhlas. The most profound and the most comprehensive surah on the philosophy of the Quran is Surah Al-Fatiha. But the most profound and the most comprehensive surah of the Quran regarding the practical path towards salvation and success in the life hereafter is Surah Al-Asr. I gave you the practice of the messengers, companions, radiyallahu ta'ala anhum ajma'in. كان الرجلان من أصحاب النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم إذا التقيا لم يتفرقا حتى يقرأ أحدهما على الآخر سورة العصر ثم يسلم أحدهما على الآخر. رواه البيهقي والطبراني رحمهما الله. Then the sayings of Al-Imam Al-Shafi'i rahimahullah, reported by Ibn Kathir rahimahullah, لو تدبر الناس هذه السورة لوسعتهم. The second one, reported by Mufti Muhammad Abduhu, لو لم ينزل من القرآن سواها لكفت الناس. Now the final and the 4th preliminary point is that the language of this surah is very simple, extremely simple. The subject is so important, comprehensive, profound, but the language is the simplest possible Arabic. Although actually the subject matter of the surah deals with philosophy, but no philosophical terminology used, no logic, terms of logic used, no verbosity, no bombastic words, nothing of the sort. Every Bedouin could understand. وَالْعَصْرِ إِنَّ الْإِنسَانَ لَفِي خُسْرٍ إِلَّا الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا وَعَمِلُوا الصَّالِحَاتِ وَتَوَاصَوْا بِالْحَقِّ وَتَوَاصَوْا بِالصَّبْرِ. And what to speak of the Bedouins? Even somewhat educated Urdu-speaking people, even if they are half educated or quarter educated, they can have no difficulty in understanding this surah at least. All these words are used in Urdu language. Asr, asr hazir, hum asr log, contemporary people. Khusr, khisara, khusran, all Urdu language. Insan, there is no other word in Urdu for insan. Adami, it is also there. Then only one word you know, tawasaw, amal, salih, all these words commonly understood. Tawasi is a bit difficult word for those who don't know the Arabic language, especially the grammar. But the root is wasiyah, and this is used in Urdu language. It's only the verb form from wasiyah. Haq and sabr, as if they are the words of Urdu language. And why I am emphasizing this point? Mind you, 1/3 of the total population of the Muslim Ummah resides in the former Indian subcontinent. Out of 1,200 million Muslims, you have 400 in Pakistan, India and Bangladesh. 1/3. So Urdu language is very important. It is understood throughout the Indian peninsula. Even the southmost tip, there also Urdu language can be understood. It's very important. Anyhow, now I'm coming to the tazakkur from this surah. First of all, let there be an analysis. This surah, as I told you, comprises of 3 ayat. But note here, the sentence is one. Wal asr. It's a testimony, it's an oath. But on what thing? Oath is taken on something, some promise or some news. Only oath or swearing doesn't mean anything. So wal asr cannot give any meaning unless it is attached to the second ayah. Wal asr innal insana lafi khusr. The second ayah is a complete sentence in itself. Innal insana lafi khusr. It gives you a general rule. And the third ayah is giving an exception to that general rule. إِلَّا الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا وَعَمِلُوا الصَّالِحَاتِ وَتَوَاصَوْا بِالْحَقِّ وَتَوَاصَوْا بِالصَّبْرِ. Exception has no meaning without the general rule being mentioned first. So it cannot give any meaning unless it is attached to the second ayah. So it can be said that this is one sentence. وَالْعَصْرِ إِنَّ الْإِنسَانَ لَفِي خُسْرٍ إِلَّا الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا وَعَمِلُوا الصَّالِحَاتِ وَتَوَاصَوْا بِالْحَقِّ وَتَوَاصَوْا بِالصَّبْرِ. It's one sentence. Or what can be said at the maximum is that there are 2 sentences. وَالْعَصْرِ إِنَّ الْإِنسَانَ لَفِي خُسْرٍ. The statement is complete. The kalam is mufiid. And again, second, إِنَّ الْإِنسَانَ لَفِي خُسْرٍ إِلَّا الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا وَعَمِلُوا الصَّالِحَاتِ وَتَوَاصَوْا بِالْحَقِّ وَتَوَاصَوْا بِالصَّبْرِ. Again, this statement is complete. Kalam is mufiid. Kalam tam. But you know, the central is the ayah number 2, which is central also numerically. إِنَّ الْإِنسَانَ لَفِي خُسْرٍ. On this subject, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala swearing by the time, the fleeting time. I have now used my own translation. Fleeting time. I will discuss later somewhat in detail in this concept of time. But here please take it from me, the fleeting time. Verily, all humans, al-insan, there is hasr in it. All humans, and males and females both included. That is why I am using the word all humans. So that not only men, but women are also included, are doomed, except those who had the real faith, real iman, which resulted in pious deeds, good deeds, righteous deeds, and then which led to exhorting others also for whatever is true, whatever is right. And then when there is need of patience and forbearance and endurance and steadfastness, exhorting each other to this also. So this is one statement. Now keep this statement before you. Try to carve it into the tablet of your hearts. And now try to find out the real lesson in it. Number one, absolutely apparent, just like the oil on the surface of the sea. This surah is giving us a criteria of success. What are the conditions of success? What's the concept of success? Everybody can understand. Every human being wants success. Nobody likes failure. But the concepts are different. 99.9 recurrent percent people think that success depends upon wealth, accumulation of wealth and belongings and property. It corresponds to status in life, status in the society. It depends upon fame and honor and reputation. Or it is based on ostentation or worldly authority and power. These are the criteria of success. He has gathered a lot of money. He is a very successful person. He has attained that position of presidentship of his country. He is a very successful person. He has built so many mills, starting from a small factory. Well, he is a very successful person. He has so much property. Well, definitely, he has the assets, investments. Oh, he is a very successful person. He is very famous. He is known everywhere in the world. His name is very high. So he is a successful person. This is the basis. And according to this basis, our attitude is decided. Gather money by hook or crook. Attain high position, either by deceiving the people, slogan mongering, telling lies. But you must reach the pinnacle of authority. Actually, it's the organic relationship between these two. The concept we have of success and our attitude in life, they must correspond to each other. What to speak of adult people, even children, schoolboys, schoolgirls, they have some concept. And they are striving for it. Well, the doctors are very respected in this society. They are the moneyed people, no doubt. So I should be a doctor. And so on. So this is the basic question tackled here. This surah tells us success doesn't depend on money. Success doesn't depend on property, on name or fame or reputation or worldly honor. None of these things has to do anything with success. If only you have the belief that this is the word of Allah. It's a big if, no doubt. On the other hand, success depends on Iman. It depends upon Amal Salih. It depends upon Tawasi bil Haqq. It depends upon Tawasi bil Sabr. Only if we can have the real faith. Now the world of difference, you can very well imagine, that will come as a result of the change of the concept of the success. To give you a manifestation of that change, even if you are Fir'aun of Misr or Namrud of Iraq, you are not successful. Even if you have the wealth of Qarun of Bani Israel, you are not successful. They were doomed. They met utter failure. But even if you were starving, if you had no shelter, no roof over your head, but you had Iman and Amal Saleh and Tawasi bil Haqq and Tawasi bil Sabr, you are successful. What a world of difference. There's the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ says, there are people whom people won't welcome in their groups and society, whom nobody will like to give the hand of his daughter in marriage. If he wants to make some recommendation for somebody, nobody will listen to them. So humble, so poor, so low in the worldly status. But mind you, if they sometimes swear by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala on something, even by mistake, Allah will fulfill their oath. That is the condition and that is the status of those persons in the eyes of Allah. Don't try to see them with your eyes. Try to see them with the eyes of Allah. What was the worldly status of Bilal? Of Abu Huraira? Of Abu Zar? Radiyallahu ta'ala anhu. About Abu Zar, the Prophet said, Man kana yasurruhu wa yanzura ila zuhdi Isa, falyanzur ila sahibi Abi Zar. Aw kama qala sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Whosoever likes to see with his own eyes the piety of Jesus, let him see my friend Abu Zar. That's the position in the eyes of the Prophet, in the eyes of Allah. But did he have any wealth, any home or hearth, any property? Nothing. So this is actually the foremost thing about which we should brood and ponder. This surah is giving us a concept and a criterion of success. وَالْعَصْرِ إِنَّ الْإِنسَانَ لَفِي خُسْرٍ إِلَّا الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا وَعَمِلُوا الصَّالِحَاتِ وَتَوَاصَوْا بِالْحَقِّ وَتَوَاصَوْا بِالصَّبْرِ. Those who don't have these four things, they are doomed. They might be kings or presidents or billionaires, leaders. They might have any name, any fame, any prosperity, any amount of property, any amount of assets, any status in the world. If they are deprived of these four things, they are doomed. But please let me make a mention here. To acknowledge this fact is easy. To accept is practically, it's not so easy. Very hard, very difficult. Why? Because we live in this world of matter. We have been made to live in this world of matter. We have manifestations of wealth around us, of prosperity, luxury, big mansions, big palaces, very long and new cars, all manifestations of prosperity and status symbols. Man is influenced. You find, an impression. You are influenced. There's a very beautiful couplet in Persian. दरमियाने कारे दरिया तख्ता बंदम कर दई बाज़मी गोई के दामन तरमकुन होशियार बाश. Oh Allah, you have left me here on a piece of wood in a sea. I'm floating in a sea. And you want from me that I shouldn't allow my clothing to be drenched. How is it possible? Darmiyane Kare Darya. We are living here. We are influenced. Even the biggest people are influenced. At least temporarily. I don't think no human can remain uninfluenced. As long as he is human. And now this is the reason why the Sahaba narrated to each other Surah Al-Asr. To shed off these influences. Just when it is snowing, what do? Remove the snow. Otherwise, maybe you are buried under it. So shedding off that snow is necessary for survival. So these influences which are coming on you every moment. When you see these signs and symptoms of status and prosperity and wealth and well-being and status, everything, these influences come. They affect you. They affect your thinking. They influence your value structure. And there's a continuous need of shedding them off. Clean yourself. Clean your thinking. Clean your mind of these evil influences. And for that, the Sahaba Ikram made it a habit. Whenever they met, they recited to each other Surah Al-Asr. Wal-Asr, inna l-insana lafi khusr. Illa allazina amanu wa amilu salihati wa tawasaw bil haqqi wa tawasaw bis sabr. This is the lesson. This is the essence of this surah. And you can very well appreciate now the sayings of Imam Shafi'i. Only if you can accept this, well, everything is set right. Only if this truth comes home to you, only if it remains at the level of your consciousness, nothing can harm you. لو تدبر الناس هذه السورة لوسعتهم لو لم ينزل من القرآن سواها لكفت الناس. Second important point about the lesson or essence of this surah is that here the minimum prerequisites of success and salvation are being discussed. Not the conditions of high level. It's not said that those who fulfill these four conditions will occupy very high position in the paradise. Logically, what would it have meant? For less you can have a lesser position. Okay. I'm contented with a lesser position in heaven, in paradise. So there's no need of fulfilling all this standard and all this criteria. But what's the construction? Verily, by the token of time, by the fleeting time, all humans are doomed. Except those who fulfill these four conditions. So it's the minimum level. It's not the A level or B level. It's just the pass marks, not the first division, not the second division. Actually, the lecture which I referred to, which has been printed in English also, I delivered it to the students of the Aitchison College at Lahore. So I use these wordings because the students can understand first division, second division. Here Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is not discussing the first or the second division, it's the pass marks. Otherwise you fail, you are doomed. So this is the lowest because it's our weakness. In this worldly affairs, we want to go higher and higher up. And for the affairs of the hereafter, we are a very contented type of people. We can do with the minimum. Hence you have to be warned that this is the minimum. Nothing doing. Beyond that, below that. No concept of success. Realization of this fact, that this is the minimum, will result in that every Muslim will try to put in maximum effort, at least to pass, at least to be saved from the fire of hell. So then he must exert. And then the effort and the exertion that one will put in will be proportionate. If it is high, well, we can, just as I said, we could be contented with some low position. The third and the most important point is that when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has laid down 4 preconditions for success, all the 4 are inevitable, necessary. You can't leave any one of them on your own. First of all, we must know that in Quran there is not a single word only for rhyme or exaggeration. This is all al-haq. Each and every word is al-haq. In our poetry, in our worldly speeches, we do exaggerate. Especially in poetry, for the sake of rhyme or rhythm, we add words. There are additional words. But in Quran, it's no poetry. Each and every word has to be taken seriously. Due attention has to be paid to it. And when Allah says, وَالْعَصْرِ إِنَّ الْإِنسَانَ لَفِي خُسْرٍ إِلَّا الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا وَعَمِلُوا الصَّالِحَاتِ وَتَوَاصَوْا بِالْحَقِّ وَتَوَاصَوْا بِالصَّبْرِ. Is it poetry? Is it exaggeration? Inevitable. All the 4 are inevitable. There can be levels. Some level of Iman. There can be higher level of Iman. There can be higher level of Iman. Still higher level of Iman. But corresponding to the level of Iman, there should be Amal Saleh. At a higher level of Iman, the Amal Saleh will also be raised. At still higher level of Iman, the level of Amal Saleh will still more be raised. But the third thing, Tawasi bil Haq, it should be there. Otherwise you will be called dumb shaitan, a shaitanul akhras. You know a truth and you are not ready to proclaim it. You are the dumb devil. You have to say it out. وَمَنْ أَظْلَمَ مِمَّنْ كَتَمَ شَهَادَةً عِنْدَهُ مِنَ اللَّهِ. Who is more unjust than the person who has hidden a shahada, a testimony with him from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. If you hide the testimony, you are the biggest azlam. وَمَنْ أَظْلَمَ مِمَّنْ كَتَمَ شَهَادَةً عِنْدَهُ مِنَ اللَّهِ. Then there must be forbearance. The level of forbearance and endurance and patience will also increase. But all the 4 things are basically essential, inevitable. None of these can be eliminated. And I have used, a simile. It's very easy and very simple. You go to a physician for some ailment of yours, and the physician writes a prescription having 4 medicines. You say, oh, I'll take only one. What will happen? Now the responsibility of the prescription lies on you, not on the physician. Maybe some medicine had some side effects, injurious effects, and he had added a corrective for that to eliminate the evil effects, the bad effects, and you have omitted that part of the prescription. Will you be doomed or not? The prescription is to be taken in toto. Take it or leave it. Either you think you are the physician, then you are free to prescribe. But if you have gone to a physician, the whole prescription that he suggests is to be taken in toto. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given 4 things. وَالْعَصْرِ إِنَّ الْإِنسَانَ لَفِي خُسْرٍ إِلَّا الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا وَعَمِلُوا الصَّالِحَاتِ وَتَوَاصَوْا بِالْحَقِّ وَتَوَاصَوْا بِالصَّبْرِ. Who has the authority to delete any one of them? What we think is that Iman is sufficient for salvation. What does it mean? The rest of this surah is poetry, simple, exaggeration, nothing else. There can be no salvation without good deeds. Not only good deeds at the personal level, but at the social level. The endeavor to transform this society into a good Muslim society. By tawasi bil haqqi wa tawasi bis sabr. If you are not doing it, your prayers and your fastings goes in vain. No weight in the balance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It has to be a proportionate. It has to be an organic whole. You know what's the difference between the organic and inorganic? When there is 1 pound or 1 kilogram of gold, you can divide it into tolas and milligrams, etc., ounces. But a cat weighing 1 kilogram cannot be broken into pieces. It won't be a cat now. It's an organic whole, a living entity. So actually, this has to be taken as an organic whole. All these 4 conditions are essential prerequisites of salvation. And in this regard, let me quote the most decisive comment and verdict of Al-Imam Al-Razi, rahimahullah. Most beautiful sentence. اعلم أن هذه الآية فيها وعيد شديد لأن الله تعالى حكم بالخسار على جميع الناس إلا من كان آتيا بهذه الأشياء الأربعة وهي الإيمان والعمل الصالح والتواصي بالحق والتواصي بالصبر فدل ذلك أن النجاة معلقة بمجموع هذه الأشياء. He was a logician, a philosopher. And the most important aspect of his exegesis, his tafsir, is that he analyzes the text. What are the possibilities? Then what are the problems? What are the questions which arise? And then he tries to solve the question. Analytical style is of Imam Razi rahimahullah. I think this sentence is most profound. Oh Muslim, just imagine, please understand, there is a great threatening and menacing statement in this surah, because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has declared doom for all of humanity except for those who fulfill these four conditions. Not one, not two, not three, all the four. فَدَلَّ ذَلِكَ, it guides us to the result, inevitable result. أَنَّ النَّجَاةَ مُعَلَّقَةٌ بِمَجْمُوعِ هَذِهِ الْأَشْيَاءِ, that the salvation and the success on the Day of Judgment is attached to, is conditional with all these four things taken together. So this is the third important point. And let me say here one more thing. Actually, these four things are one. Because the inevitable consequence and result of real faith is amal salih. It's impossible that you have real faith, the burning faith, the living faith, the personal conviction, and you don't act according to it. It's impossible. The difference is between the verbal attestation of the faith and the real conviction. Here lies the world of difference, the total difference. We are Muslims only on the basis of a verbal attestation. We profess, we claim, we testify. Nashhadu an la ilaha illallah wa nashhadu anna Muhammadan Rasulullah. It's a testimony. It's a verbal attestation, nothing else. And so long as it doesn't go down into the depths of our hearts, there can be a contradiction in whatever we say and whatever we do. And that is the condition of the most of the Muslims today. Ya ayyuhallazina amanu lima taquluna ma la taf'alun. And why it is so? Walamma yadkhulul imanu fi qulubikum. The iman has not entered your hearts as yet. It's only on the tips of your tongues or on your lips. قالت الأعراب آمنا قل لم تؤمنوا ولكن قولوا أسلمنا ولما يدخل الإيمان في قلوبكم. Ayah number 14 of Surah Al-Hujurat. But such people are also Muslims because they have testified. Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah wa ashhadu anna Muhammadan Rasulullah. Whosoever utters these words, whether he was Hindu or Parsi or Sikh or Christian, he becomes a Muslim immediately. But Islam is something else, Iman is something else. Iman means yaqeen, conviction. And when there is conviction, your actions, your deeds, they will definitely be changed. That is why the Prophet said, La imana liman la amanata lahu wa la deena liman la ahda lahu. عن أنس بن مالك رضي الله تعالى عنه قال قلما خطبنا رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم إلا قال لا إيمان لمن لا أمانة له ولا دين لمن لا عهد له. It's very seldom that the Prophet ﷺ gave any sermon to us and he didn't include these words in his sermon. There is no iman for such a person who is not amana, who is not trustworthy, who is khain. And there is no deen of a person who doesn't fulfill his words, his promises. No deen, no iman. Simple. Actions and iman, they are joined together, inevitably. As I told you last evening, I spoke for 8 hours last year on this subject, iman. What is iman? Literal meaning of iman. And the videos of those lectures are available. Here, you know, I have to go a long way, so I'm only referring. A legal iman, based upon that legal iman, we are Muslims. Real iman is based on the personal conviction in the heart. And for salvation in the hereafter, to be counted a Muslim in this world, you need legal iman. But to be counted as a mu'min on the Day of Judgment, you need real iman. And that real iman inevitably results in al-amalu salih. That's why Imam Bukhari, he says that good deeds are integral part of iman. Although there's a difference of opinion in this interpretation, I've discussed these things in very detail, much detail. Only if you can listen to those audio tapes or view those video tapes. And in the same way, Man ra'a minkum munkaran falyughayyirhu biyadihi. فإن لم يستطع فبلسانه فإن لم يستطع فبقلبه وذلك أضعف الإيمان. If you can't call a spade, you can't take the courage of standing up and saying, this is wrong, this is haram, you have no iman. This hadith is from Abu Sa'id al-Khudri radiyallahu ta'ala, reported by Imam Muslim rahimahullah. Whosoever amongst you sees something wrong, something haram, something which is according to the Sharia not permissible, which is munkar, it is his duty to change it with force if he has it. But if he can't do it, then at least with his tongue, he should say it. This is wrong, don't do it. And then there's a concession from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for the weak also. If even that courage you can't gather, at least feel in your heart some pain as to why this is happening. And this is the weakest point of Iman. In another hadith which is reported by Imam Muslim, from Abdullah ibn Mas'ud radiyallahu ta'ala anhu, the final wordings are, وَلَيْسَ وَرَاءَ ذَلِكَ مِنَ الْإِيمَانِ حَبَّةُ خَرْدَلٍ. Beyond this, there is not even a grain of Iman. If you see bad things evil, then don't feel even. You don't feel any pain in your heart. There's no Iman whatsoever. It's a categorical statement. وَلَيْسَ وَرَاءَ ذَلِكَ مِنَ الْإِيمَانِ حَبَّةُ خَرْدَلٍ. So actually all these things, and now this is the test of the character. If you have said something which is true, which is correct, which is right, which is just, and if there is some resentment, some friend has become angry, and you have to undergo some loss, and now you are trembling, now you are retracing your steps, you don't have any character. You are a characterless person. The strength of character, what does it mean? Say out the truth, and then be ready for the consequences, whatever they may be. As Luqman the wise, rahimahullah, he said to his son, Ya bunayya aqimis salah, wa'mur bil ma'ruf, wanha 'anil munkar, wasbir 'ala ma asabak, inna zalika min 'azmi al-umur. Oh my beloved son, establish the prayer. Command to others whatever is right and just. Forbid from whatever is wrong and unjust. And then be ready and take all the persecution that comes to you. Because this path needs strength of character. Azmi al-umur. Azima. You must have that strength of character in you. So actually these four things, Allah has only explained, you know. Otherwise these four things are one. If Iman is correct, Amal will be durust. It will become correct itself. When it reaches a maturity, tawasi bil haq, tawasi bil sabr will come. To give you an example, if you have a seed or a fruit kernel or stone, it's healthy seed, and you have the healthy soil. You sow the seed. What will happen? 2 leaves will sprout out. Then it will grow. In some time it will grow into a tree. Then it will bear fruit. So actually Iman is the seed. Then the tree which is coming up, it's the Amal Saleh. And the fruit which it is bearing is tawasi bil haqq wa tawasi bil sabr. So it's an organic whole. A tree is an organic whole. It's a living organism. So this is the third point about the tazakkur. Or if we include that analysis also, that is the fourth, and now the final point is Just pay attention to the eloquence and emphasis. Wal asr, Allah is swearing on this statement. Although without his swearing and without his taking the oath, whatever he said, to a moment it must be acceptable. But to lay emphasis on it, wal asr, then every Arabic knowing person knows inna. It's for emphasis. Ta'keed. Inna al-insana lafi khusr. Al-insan hasr. All humans included. La, lafi, la again for ta'keed. Then the jumla ismiya has a ta'keed in itself. All the modes of emphasis available in Arabic language have been grouped together in this ayah. None has been left over. Wal asr, innal insana lafi khusr. Such emphasis, so emphatic a statement. And we think that we believe in it. So eloquence and emphasis of the highest order. وَالْعَصْرِ إِنَّ الْإِنسَانَ لَفِي خُسْرٍ إِلَّا الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا وَعَمِلُوا الصَّالِحَاتِ وَتَوَاصَوْا بِالْحَقِّ وَتَوَاصَوْا بِالصَّبْرِ. Now, I'm taking one exception to the decision that I took, that I won't go into any details regarding the tadabbur on this surah. The exception I want to make is wal asr, because other things will be discussed in different lessons, different parts, which are included in this selected course of study. But this word will not reappear. What does it mean? It's very important that today you have a concept that time and space are joined together into one whole. Time is not separate from the space. We have a concept of a three-dimensional space: height, breadth, length, or depth, breadth, length. But after, the revolution which occurred in the world of mathematics and physics, from the days of Einstein, the concepts have changed. Time is the fourth dimension of space. Although unimaginable, we can't imagine it. But the mathematical equations prove it. You have to have iman bil ghaib. Something might be unimaginable, still it can be true. Now, Arabic language seems to be very profound in this respect. If we consider the different words that have been used, waqt. This word, although it appears in Quran, but not with such emphasis or splendor or grandeur. The two words which appear are al-asr, ad-dahr. And with both start two surahs, Suratul Asr, wal-asr innal insana lafi khusr. Suratul Dahr, hal ata ala al-insani hinum min ad-dahri lam yakun shay'an mazkura. Inna khalaqna al-insana min nutfatin amshajin nabtalih faj'alnahu sami'an basira. And in both of these terms, the concept that comes before us is the time and space complex. But in the word of asr, it's the time element which is more emphasized. In the case of dahr, it is the space element which is more emphasized. But both are similar to each other regarding the point that the complex time and space complex is present in both these words. Now, asr actually time. And you must be knowing, if you have studied philosophy, this concept of time is a very difficult question of philosophy. What is time? Unsettled up till now. We don't know what is time. But they divide time usually into categories. The serial time, which is passing. In this serial time, there was past, there is present, there will be future. It's the passing time. the fleeting time. And the other is the pure duration, or the absolute time, in which there is no past or future or present. Pure duration, absolute time. Serial time versus absolute time. Now, us denotes to serial time which passes. That is why I selected from those translations which I read out to you, fleeting word, the word fleeting, by the fleeting time. This time is fleeing and fleeting. Because I read in my high school days a poem, The Psalm of Life. Time is fleeting. Art is long and time is fleeting. And our hearts, though stout and brave, still like muffled drums are beating funeral marches to the grave. The beating of the heart is like the beating of the drum, which is accompanying the dead body of some general army officer. Step by step, that dead body is nearing its grave. And with each step, there is the beat of the drum. In the same way, this beating of your heart, each beating is taking you nearer and nearer to the grave. This is the reality of your life. Art is long and time is fleeting. And our hearts, though stout and brave, still like muffled drums are beating funeral marches to the grave. Now what's the result? Then what should we do? Let us then be up and doing, with a heart for any fate, still achieving, still pursuing. Learn to labor and to wait. You know, all wisdom is common to all humanity. The same wisdom of Surah Al-Asr, glimpses of those wisdoms you can see in this poem. Tell me not in mournful numbers, life is but an empty dream. For the soul is dead that slumbers, and things are not what they seem. Life is real, life is earnest, and the grave is not its goal. Dust thou art, to dust returnest, was not spoken of the soul. Body is from the dust, it will return to the dust, but your soul and spirits, they are not from the dust, not from the clay. They have come from somewhere else. يَسْأَلُونَكَ عَنِ الرُّوحِ قُلِ الرُّوحُ مِنْ أَمْرِ رَبِّي. Whatever came from the grave, from the dust or the clay, will return to the grave. But whatever came from high, from the Lord, it will return to the Lord. Inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi raji'un. Dust thou art, to dust returnest, was not spoken of the soul. So actually the same wisdom, the same hikmah. But I was only quoting this for this word fleeting time. Now this is actually to arouse you out of slumber. For the soul is dead that slumbers. We are slumbering, unmindful of the real goal of life, forgetting our death, which is inevitable. The only thing which is inevitable and most certain about life is death. You can't be sure that you will be able to see the sun of tomorrow. Can anybody be? Who can be sure he will be able to reach his house, his family? The most certain thing in life is death. And we try to ignore it. Even if the idea of death comes, we want to just shut it off. Even when we are accompanying the dead body's janaza, and we are ourselves lowering the dead body into the grave, we don't think that might be I am in his place tomorrow. We want to avoid even the thought of death. To arouse you out of that slumber. Walas, time is fleeting, it's going. Time is money. It's the most precious thing that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given you. It's not to be wasted. Imam Razi quoted the example of a seller of ice. He was screaming like anything because it was time, night was coming, and he knew a vendor of vegetables He was not to worry that much because he can keep the vegetables for the next day and sell them, maybe at a bit lower price. But what about the ice? It's going. If it is not sold immediately, it will become water. The basic investment will go. He was screaming like anything. That should be the example of man. Time is going. Wal asr. Beware of the time. Al waqtu sayfun qati'. It's the cutting sword. So that word Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has used here. Wal asr. By the fleeting time. Second explanation about this word here is that we know that in the Quran we find history of the old nations, old civilizations, how nations rose to pinnacles of strength and glory, how they went down to decadence and even oblivion. Rise and fall of the Roman Empire. Civilizations coming up and going down. Who is the witness, continuous witness of all what is happening? Either Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala all the time. This is the witness. And actually, the oaths and the swearings in Quran, they are for the purpose of witnessing. This fleeting time is testifying, is a witness to the fact that all nations have been doomed except those who took to this path. إِلَّا الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا وَعَمِلُوا الصَّالِحَاتِ وَتَوَاصَوْا بِالْحَقِّ وَتَوَاصَوْا بِالصَّبْرِ. And because we see in the Quran, matters were discussed before the beginning of time also. When it was alam amr only, no alam khalq, no creation. Then time actually started when there was the Big Bang, the creation of this universe. Now serial time started. The one dimension of the space separated from the rest of the three. And then again, after the doomsday, there is a time of akhirah. All this is one stretched, you may say, one stretched rope of time from eternity to eternity. And this is the biggest witness to what Allah is saying. Wal asr. This fleeting time is testifying. Innal insana lafi khusr, that all humans are doomed. إِلَّا الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا وَعَمِلُوا الصَّالِحَاتِ وَتَوَاصَوْا بِالْحَقِّ وَتَوَاصَوْا بِالصَّبْرِ. Except those who attained, who got the real faith. Their thinking became right, according to the actual realities of the existence. Then who fulfilled the practical requirements of their faith. Whatever was the logical sequence and consequence of what they believed, they fulfilled it. They might have to undergo hardships. They might have to bear persecutions, just as the Sahaba, Rizwanullahi ta'ala alayhim ajma'in. But they fulfilled the practical, logical sequences or consequences of their faith. Then they tried to spread the message of Allah, to convey to the others, to share this precious thing with others. Then they made jihad for the cause of Allah. Now, as you must have read a hadith, that Hazrat Aisha Ummul Mu'mineen radiyallahu ta'ala anha, she was once asked a question by a tabi'i, some of the tabi'is. They went to her and they asked her, tell us something about the seerah of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. They were very surprised to get an answer from Ummul Mu'mineen, Hazrat Aisha radiyallahu ta'ala anha, Don't you people read Quran? They were surprised. We had requested that some seerah, some life of the Prophet ﷺ must be narrated to us. You have been the companion, you have been the wife, you are the nearest and the closest to him. Tell us something about his seerah. And you are questioning, don't you people read Quran? They said, we do read Quran. But we are asking you, oh our brother, about the seerah. What was the reply again? Kana khuluquhul Quran. His seerah, his character, even his life, his biography is in Quran. Isn't Surah Al-Anfal a chapter of the seerah of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam? It is narrating the events of Ghazwa Badr. What a big chunk of Surah Al Imran, narrating the events of the Battle of Uhud. It's a part and parcel of the seerah of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Then as regards the character, the Quran, khulq, kana khuluquhul Quran, as if Quran is to be read. It is something to be read. And Quran manifested as a human person is Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And this surah actually, this comprises and summarizes the whole seerah of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, whole seerah of the companions. These 4 words, wal asr innal insana lafi khusr illa allazina amanu wa amilu salihati wa tawasaw bil haqqi wa tawasaw bis sabr. I end with this and pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He gives us the correct understanding of what our deen is and what He demands of us. And He makes us from those. Allahumma ja'alna min ibadika allazina amanu wa amilu salihati wa tawasaw bil haqqi wa tawasaw bis sabr. Ameen ya Rabbal Alameen. أقول قولي هذا واستغفر الله لي ولكم ولسائر المسلمين والمسلمات.